All right. Hey, y'all. My name's James Meter. I'm here today joined by Raymond Singh.
That's me.
This guy right here. So I'm excited to kind of chat with him a little bit about his new record called... What's it called?
Oh, it's called Like a Butterfly in Gossamer. Yeah.
That's quite the title. And I know for anyone else out there that's like myself, I wasn't sure what Gossamer means.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
It's a couple different things. It's sort of like it's kind of like this very sort of like thin, it's almost like sort of see-through fabric that I don't know what you would particularly like, what kind of clothing you'd see it on, but the other use is it's like the term for spider silk, I believe.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. Yep. So that kind of like thin, sort of filmy material. And so for me, I was actually originally going to call the album like The Spider and the Butterfly, but it just seemed like too on the nose. So I sort of quirked it a little bit. But for me, it's like kind of talking about these two interrelated forces, the butterfly being kind of a representation of chaos and like sort of like flightiness and but also kind of fragility, and then the spider being interconnectedness, like webs, and sort of like Gossamer being something that is fragile but actually has a lot of strength. So kind of like just the intertwining of those two forces, and I think thematically, like a lot of the lyrics on the album and are expressions of my worldview, and so they're expressions of like the interactions between those two forces in various ways.
And just having been there through the process, you played everything on the record.
Yeah.
So
I didn't twiddle all the knobs though.
Okay.
You did part of that.
I did indeed.
Yeah.
Okay. But I'm just thinking like in terms of like the record title and how there's a lot going on in the meaning behind that title, and then like what you played on this record is quite phenomenal. Like you played drums, bass, guitar, all the guitars. I mean everything, all the sounds. I think you played. Did you play the vibraphone for something?
Yeah, for one song.
I think, and then
And
what else
Rhodes.
did you play? A little bit of Rhodes.
Yeah, and the piano, not this piano, but another one.
Piano at my old place. You played some slide guitar, I know.
Yep. And that's basically it. There was a lot of like soft synth stuff as well that I ported in. I think there was like one point where we tried to get a synthesizer part going, but it that was replaced with no. So yeah, it was fun. I just enjoyed like the laboratory sort of mad scientist process of it. Every time I came to your place, it felt like just an exciting day at the office.
Cool.
A real playground. No, seriously. Yeah.
Right on. Maybe we take a little bit of a step back just to give some context. Where are you from?
Oh, that far back.
I want to we'll speed it up here.
Okay, no,
but
that's fine.
Just like bullet point, kind of
like baseball card style.
Yeah.
So I was born originally in Adelaide, South Australia, and then moved here to Phoenix, Arizona when I was about 3 or so, and then I grew up in Phoenix. Went to school there, and then in Virginia, lived in DC for a while, and then moved to LA it'll be, 9 years in November. So it was it was Election Day 2016, which I always like telling people because
that was a bleak day.
It's a real tone setter. Yeah. Nothing like your first day in Los Angeles being, sort of panic listening to NPR after dinner at the Cheesecake Factory at the Grove.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
See, this sounds exactly like what we were talking about, your album title, where there's all these kind of like dualities happening. And
yeah, sure.
intertwined with what's happening in your music. So I think that's great. I mean, it's fitting, not great, but like it explains how things have come to be in a way.
Yeah, it's again, it's like if the idea is that there are sort of fundamentally these two forces that are kind of like operating and interacting and everything, then like the particular is always going to be an example of the universal. And so, like the simultaneous, gorging on food, and then also like listening to potential like, collapse of institutions. It's like, that's just sort of another, that's what life is, for better and for worse. Another duality, I guess.
Yeah. Well, before we talk more about the record, because I have so many questions. But,
sure. Yeah.
A little bit about growing up. Mm-hmm. I know some of your like main influences, but I'm wondering if maybe you could touch on those again.
Yeah, sure. So I'm of North Indian ethnicity. So growing up, like, if we would go to like the Sikh temple, the Gurdwara, or like, we're like watching a Bollywood movie. So like there was a lot of like just Indian music and Indian classical music going around. So that was there. And then also, growing up here, just kind of absorbed 90s music. As a young kid, I was actually really like into like country for a little bit there. Like mid 90s, like sort of Garth Brooks, George Strait, like Faith Hill, Tim McGraw, all that stuff. Like
kind of like I didn't know that. Country. That's cool.
Yeah. And then, but like formatively, in a sense of like when I was like really, really getting into music and kind of developing my own taste around the time when I started playing guitar, that was like 2003. So just because of the milieu that I was in, it was a lot of like that sort of 2000s like post-punk revival stuff, like so Strokes, Interpol, Yeah Yeahs, and then some classic rock as well. And through that, what really kind of broke the door open for me was coming across the band Television, because and the reason why I was even sort of like, what piqued my interest about that band, which I hadn't been exposed to before, was like, well, they're the band that kind of like set the sonic template for a lot of the bands that I liked, like Franz Ferdinand and Block Party, like the angular sort of interlocking guitars and like all that stuff. And so I was like, oh man, that sounds great. And then I heard that there's this one song, Marquee Moon, that like has that, and then also has this like Mixolydian wacky like 4-minute guitar solo. I'm like, that sounds right up my alley, because that brings in like the Indian raga stuff as well. And
you have a lot on your record like that, so that's a direct homage to that in a way.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, that's just in there at this point. I love the twin guitar stuff. So Television's a big one, all the stuff I mentioned before. And then, like, alternative rock, like British neo-psychedelia. So anything from like Spiritualized and The Verve. I mean, I obviously want to throw in like Radiohead and The Smile in there as well, for sure. I welcome any and all comparisons that I inevitably get. So cool. It's always a compliment, but yeah.
Right on. And this was like when, it sounds like you mostly grew up in Arizona. Is that kind of like what you identify as your childhood, I guess?
Yeah,
time?
For sure. Yeah, I mean, because that was like 3 to 18, basically. 18 is when I left to go to Virginia. So yeah, and thinking about it now, like, there are a couple Arizona bands that also are like close to my heart in a certain way. Gin Blossoms and Jimmy Eat World.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know Jimmy Eat World was from out there.
Yeah, they're from Mesa. Yeah. And I think they still live there and stuff like that. Yeah, that record Futures that came out in 2004, it's still kind of, has a particular. It's kind of like if your brain is a bedroom, like there's a There's like a little Jimmy Eat World poster in there. Yeah, for sure.
That's awesome. And then, like, I mean, just growing up out there, it must have been hot.
Sometimes, yeah.
Or was it cold? I don't know. I haven't spent much time out in Arizona.
Well,
I'm just wondering, like, how did that, being that it's, like, not a, like, super urban area, if, like, you know, some of those small town vibes kind of, like, makes you, like, encourages you to, like, spend time on an instrument, maybe that you wouldn't necessarily do if you were in this world where there's always stuff happening right at your fingertips.
Yeah, I see what you mean. I was always an introverted kid. I always preferred spending time kind of in my own head doing stuff. I do think that during the summer months or like the warmer months that not being able to spend as much time outside had a certain amount to do with just finding other avenues for my own just sort of like
entertainment,
imagination, desire to do things. And I guess but I was always sort of again imaginative and wanting to kind of create things. Earlier on, actually, I was really interested in like drawing stuff. But
oh, cool.
Yeah, but like around 12, 13, I really just like latched on to music as like the thing for that, music and writing. Yeah, and also I will say, you know, I mean, Phoenix is a big city. I think that, you know, that's for like the urban versus, you know, I guess whatever, it wasn't quite rural, but suburban. I grew up in the suburbs. Like for me, that dynamic had, I think, a little bit less to do with it than just my own natural like disposition towards being a little inward. Yeah, and kind of just wanting to find and craft spaces for myself.
That's cool.
Yeah, which I still do now.
And then you mentioned writing.
Yep.
And I know that you have a philosophy degree.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously that stemmed from the same area, I guess, but
for sure.
Can you talk a little bit about how that's maybe influenced what you do or inspired?
Yeah, I mean, it's directly philosophy and like, you know, the music stuff. They've had their own sort of intertwining relationship from the get-go. When I started writing, well, pretty quickly after I learned the guitar, I was like, well, I definitely want to write my own songs. And so kind of like dove headfirst into music theory and just like started writing stuff. And the things that I was writing were almost exclusively just turning ideas or insights or things that I was reading into lyrics as a way of not only just like playing with language to express this thing in another way, but also to kind of consolidate my own ideas around a thing that I was chewing on, or to kind of like have it coalesce into something. Because poetry, playing with language in that way, is a good vehicle for like really like for articulation and like symbolic articulation. If you can kind of collapse something into this like sort of
core
jewel of a symbol,
yeah,
that can kind of stick with you, and you can use that to explain things to people. But anyway, so philosophy and music have always been tied together that way. I've occasionally written things about like more personal experiences or like feelings and things like that. But
what's that like? No, I'm just kidding.
But it's not that I can't or don't. It's more that just like that's not really what interests me primarily with the lyric writing stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm interested in those things in life.
Yes.
but not necessarily, you know, in terms of creative outlets and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, you could hear that because there's a lot of phrases that you use. I just when I was listening recently, there's some line like about what it's blanking me. I should have written it down, but something about parental. What do you say? Parental.
Oh, perennial wellspring?
Yes.
Yeah.
That phrase, I don't really understand it, but
Gotcha.
like, to me, I don't care that I don't understand it. It's like, it's so, I don't know. Those syllables together just make me happy.
Oh, that's good. That's the other thing, though. I think part of the joy of writing lyrics for me is the musicality of it too. Like, you know, if I think about just music in the abstract and just making sound, it doesn't really mean anything. But it's just it's a pure sort of affect. It's like, it's just how does this fit aesthetically to you, given all of the cultural background and all the music that you've heard and like where you're at right now emotionally. Like it's just pure intensity, like
pure intensity.
Yeah, well, in the sense of like it versus sort of like something that is trying to communicate something to you. It's less like a letter and it's more like sort of a gust of wind. And so like the language of like a phrase like that where you're like, yeah, it just makes me happy. I'm like, sure, that's a level that it's supposed to work on, and I'm conscious of that. Like I want the lyrics to also work in on that dimension in addition to the symbolic dimension. Like they should work as poetry. They should feel good. They shouldn't be like didactic and sort of like corny or clumsy or just like, here's me, I'm trying to teach you something. Like Neil Peart. Shots fired against dead people.
Well, what did Neil Peart do?
He wrote terrible lyrics.
Okay.
About Ayn Rand.
Okay, well that's a little bit more understandable.
Anyway.
Oh boy. I know you talked about television and like some angular guitaring happening. Let me see. I was going to pull up a song. I was going to play some, maybe Hanging Gardens.
Oh, yeah.
Hanging Gardens of Babylon.
Yeah.
Why did you laugh?
Well, it just, I think that's probably my favorite song on the album.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's the one I think I'm most happy with.
I'm going to just play a little bit of it. Little taste there. Yeah, I love that. Some aspects, I guess, characteristics that I really like is like you have all the tempo changes happening.
Sure, yeah.
I don't know, maybe you would call that like mixed meter or something, where it's like I count it as 4/4 and then the 3/8 in the little like in the chorus and the like the riff, interlude kind of bit.
Yeah.
Is that how you would describe it?
Yeah, I just think of it as 11. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's 4,
11,
4, and 3,
8.
8. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's not something you hear too much, so I think that's cool.
Yeah.
And then in the verse, it goes like to like a 6/8.
Yeah. Basically.
So that's some pretty hard stuff to be playing. And I know we worked really hard on the drum sound and like. I'm just really impressed. I love like the vibe that's going on in that song.
Yeah, thank you.
I don't know. Do you have anything you want to chat about? Like what you were thinking maybe when you came up with that, if you remember?
Yeah, for sure. So the basic process of that, when I wrote it, there are 2 guitars in that riff section, and the one guitar is kind of doing this like sort of hybrid picking thing. That's what came first, and it came through as just 11. And a lot of the times when I'm writing stuff that end up being odd time, it's a pattern, and then I kind of back calculate like, wait, what time signature is that? Because that feels a little odd. So that happened first. Then from that, like the basic sort of harmonic structure of the song came together pretty quickly. I was listening to a lot of the Man Who Sold the World album by David Bowie at the time I was writing it. So like the kind of like the rising little like that's just, I just nicked that from the title track of Man Who Sold the World. It's like,
That's really cool.
Yeah. And so the lyrics also kind of came together pretty quickly after that. I think at the time I was reading The Developing Mind by Daniel Siegel. So the Hanging Gardens of Babylon kind of being this metaphor and playing with the idea of like sort of neural networks and like the mind being distributed through the body as a kind of like just tangled mess of stuff that's always changing and expanding. And that was like the basic structure of the song. And then I open mic that, and it was terrible, but it's okay. People live, you move on. Just because I just couldn't get it right
at the time. It's really hard.
So that's okay. I was like, the song itself is still good. Mm-hmm. Then when I was tracking demos early last year, just kind of arranged the rest of the bits. In terms of like the odd meter, like the switching between the two, that honestly was also a consequence of my own limitations, where like I had originally written it as just being an 11 the whole way through, and when it came to the verses, and there was just something about that was just tripping me up. I'm like, this doesn't feel right. Yeah, like the choruses they came through fine because I think there's like a kind of space to it, but getting the melody line to kind of like flow continuously over 11 was not working. So I just shifted it to 12 or 6, I guess, because the Allman Brothers do that in Whipping Post. They like kind of like the
I don't know that too.
So it goes from like the riff is an 11 and it goes to kind of like a 6/8 little deal for whenever Greg is singing. It's a matter of like kind of having an idea and a vision, and then just being very liberal with sort of influences and where you're pulling things from. I always talk about creativity as being akin to Lego, and so it's like
Lego,
yeah, or Legos.
What does that mean?
No, people in the Lego community, they're real sticklers about the like how you pluralize.
Okay, add word. Legos to the list.
Yeah, just like people. But so like the sort of the combinatorial aspect of that, where it's like, I'm taking a little bit from here, a little bit from there, a little bit from there, but you use it in the service of creating something new. Mm-hmm. So that was more or less it. And then in terms of recording it, I remember actually Hanging Gardens coming together really fast. I think what happened is that I was so like nervous about the drum session for that song in particular that I think I just rehearsed it more. Mm-hmm. So that's also another lesson. It's just like, rehearse your parts.
That's great.
Don't waste time in the studio. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Also, like the chorus part with the 11/8, mm-hmm. as you described it, like that kind of reminds me of something that either some of the more like mathy sounding Radiohead stuff, like Tom York would kind of approach like a melody like that, yep. Or another one that comes to mind is Maynard in Tool, mm-hmm. does like a lot of that where it's like you can't like quite place where the downbeat is almost, and like it's just being sung over, but that's what makes it kind of like smooth.
Exactly. Because
otherwise, if you were just listening to like the rhythm track, it'd be like, what the hell's going on here?
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. So like, there is definitely a Smile song called "Skirting on the Surface." Okay. On the first album, that's in 11.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. And yes, that's a good point. I didn't want it. I don't think I ever want, like, odd time songs to necessarily feel like they're odd time in that way of, like, kind of, I don't want it to be, like, too herky-jerky.
Mm-hmm. Herky-jerky.
I want it to feel like it's a groove in that time. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so, because I think that can just otherwise, that has its place, but I think for me, it can feel a little too awkward.
That's the David Bowie's follow-up album.
Yeah, exactly. It was supposed to be between Hunky Dory and Ziggy Stardust, but it was thrown away.
Herky Jerky.
Yeah.
The long lost Bowie album.
Yeah. Oh. Well, by that time, Rick Wakeman had gone to Yes, and so they couldn't get him for the sequel album, so they scrapped it.
Get rid of that Herky Jerky.
Yep. That was actually the first track on the album. Parentheses, get rid of that, and then Herky Jerky. Like, can't get no satisfaction.
Dang.
Oh, I'm out of water.
An epic, I'll give you some more water.
Oh.
What am I thinking of? Concept album.
Yeah.
The Herky Jerky concept album. Let me get you some water.
Thank you.
All right, moving right along. I was going to play... Well, I wanted to stay on the odd meter train just for one more tune.
Oh, sure. Yeah, there are a couple of them on there. Oh, yeah.
I just remember after the next chorus, there's that cool vocal part that comes in, but people can hear that if they listen to it. But yeah, there's like a lot of cool moments happening throughout in different songs, but lots of cool stuff. That's in 5/4.
Yeah, and that's the whole.
I like that groove.
Yeah.
I also, something that we haven't talked about, I don't think, is like your bass playing, which is like super melodic.
Yeah, thank you.
And I think that really helps shape like the flow of the songs.
Yeah.
And so I think in addition to like some of how you approach your vocals, like we were talking about earlier, where you're it's kind of masking some of the irregular meters.
Yeah.
It's making it smooth, some of your bass playing.
Yeah, for sure.
Dig that a lot.
Oh, thank you.
Also, there's a moment in the verse where you hit the hi-hat with a nice open close kind of vibe, and I love that part. Yeah. It's just a split second.
Yep.
And then also thank you for letting me twist the knobs on the delay regeneration there.
Oscillations are fun.
So that was a fun moment.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have anything to share about this tune.
About Dust? Yeah, for sure. Well, first of all, thank you for the compliments about the bass stuff specifically. Because,
it's throughout the record.
Yeah, so like that, cool the bass lines were something that I really paid attention to as I think a sort of a governing principle for me is that like I want to try to have every part of every section doing something at least somewhat interesting. So it's like I didn't really. I think there may be only a couple of spots where like the bass is really just going like kind of like root, root, like it, like if I think there of the entire sort of arrangement of instruments in a particular section is just really just being voices. Like it should be doing something. I know like that sort of idea is just taken from Paul McCartney's bass playing, which is just like. So many songs on his solo stuff or on Beatles songs are just like fun for me to just hone in on what he's doing on the bass and how it kind of either adds an interesting counterpoint or functions as like the driving hook of the song sometimes. One of my favorite like Paul McCartney bass performances is that song Rain, where I mean that's
how does that one go?
Oh,
I think.
Well, it's like, if the rain comes, they run and hide their heads. No, not
oh, yes.
Yeah, it's the B-side to Paperback Writer, I think.
Okay.
Or maybe a double A-side, something like that, yeah.
Gotcha, yeah.
Anyway, the bass work is like, was very intentionally done, so it was memorable. And then in terms of Dust, it's in Dadgad. Half the songs on more than half the songs on the album are in Dadgad, and that's sort of like a second standard tuning for me. Again, the the sort of the Radioheadiness of it is something that I feel like I was never. That does not come consciously to me. It just sort of comes out in part because of my taste, and in part because I think the way my voice sounds to some degree. But like, the way it was written, that was one song that was meant to like be in 5 because I kind of like lyrically it's kind of a bar about like sort of nature as this sort of like swirling excess, like sort of you can't quite kind of square the circle of what it's doing at any given time, and there's always going to be some sort of like loss involved. And so I think like 5/4 to me can feel that way, where it's just like it's just like a little bit off, a little bit askew,
a little cockeyed,
yeah, and kind of like tripping over itself a little bit, and also like the solo in that song, I wanted it to kind of sound like I threw the Telecaster into a blender and like hit puree, it's like
that's what it sounds like.
Yeah, exactly. And so like thank you for accomplishing that. I guess in terms of that song, that's what comes to mind. Maybe the only other thing is just like the end bit. There's a sort of like a soft synth organ solo that I was trying to use the Hammond B3 in Logic Pro to get as close to sounding like a harmonium as I could without actually using a harmonium. Another principle for me is the idea of like trying to kind of push instruments to sound like other instruments without using those instruments. So like I take influence from a lot of, just global music, right? And a lot of that is for the timbral aspect. And so, I could use a sitar, or I could use a harmonium, or I could use a whatever, but that to me, again, it almost feels like too on the nose, and I would rather make like a guitar sound like a like a rebab, or like I want a piano.
Like a what?
A rebab.
I don't know what that is.
It's that's a boat instrument that's it's sort of found in like Central Asia, Middle East. Like,
okay.
Yeah. And there are versions of it that are kind of like scattered across like the Asian
string instrument.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Anyway, that's the idea there. Yeah.
Cool. I wanted to play Cursed Man. Let's play a little bit of that. Oh. I'm just gonna go forward a little bit.
Mm-hmm. So pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's you.
Well, that's also. I remember kind of sitting behind you while you were like setting up the reverb during mixing for that song, and just like it really kind of congealed in a way that was satisfying and a lot. It just felt like I had a lot more space and body than I could have imagined. It really felt good. I remember like when you put that together.
Cool.
So yeah.
Yeah, that's like one of my favorite songs. The chorus, like specifically, is a special moment. I feel like, for some reason, I feel like it's got to be in that moment that I feel like for a long time, when we were working on it, there wasn't that lead guitar that you have on there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was just like listening to like the chord changes and your vocal melody.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I probably said this at some point, but for some reason it sounds like a country song to me.
Yep.
So when you mentioned earlier that you had some country influences from the 90s, I didn't know about that. So like that kind of makes sense, maybe, that I heard some of that. But I love that, the melody in there and the changes and what's going on. And then I think one of the last things we put on, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was that guitar, that lead guitar. Mm-hmm. And I think I probably made some not so good joke about
the Krungbin thing?
Yeah. About that sounding like a Krungbin little riff. But
yeah, for sure. I get that.
Which I still like, and like I think it kind of moves it more in line with like the rest of the tone of the record.
Yeah.
In a nice way. So that was a surprising moment. How much. It was just interesting that like that little garnish on the top really kind of makes it sit into place like where it's supposed to be. Yeah. You
mean like sonically?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I didn't mean to interrupt you if I did.
No, I'm done. No, I'm done.
As you were talking, it kind of made me think about cooking.
Okay.
So it's like, let's say, like the basic chord changes or whatever. Like if you have a 1-4-5, it's like just some bland, just basic like ingredients. But what really oftentimes distinguishes cuisines and styles is just like the flavoring, which if you look at like just mass or like volume percentage wise, it's like it's very little, but it can completely change and like set the sort of template or a palette or whatever of the thing that you're making that distinguishes it from like Korean food from being Indian food from being Mexican food or whatever. And I think that like things like timbre, things like sort of like ornamentation, or even just sort of the scale degrees that you choose to use or not use. That's kind of like the spice, and actually that relates to a concept from Indian classical music, where like the word rag or like raga, it means like a color dye, right? So it's or like kind of like a juice, and so it's like the different modalities or like the different like sort of sonic qualities of something. It's almost akin to like just a color palette or like a flavoring palette. That distinguishes it from something else. And I think that's very, very true. With the Krungbin thing, I mean, Mark Spears playing is a great example of that, because you could play the same pentatonic scales any number of ways. And a lot of what differentiates him from other players is just really just ornamentation. So it's like, a certain trill or like a certain sort of like way of sliding to a note as opposed to just playing the note directly. It evokes something like Thai music or something, like Central Asian music. And for me in that song, I'm operating from a similar like methodological idea where it's like, again, because I listen to a lot of global music, like that was deliberately, there's that guitar bit and then there's the solo later on that was done with the ebow.
Oh yeah.
Both of which are supposed to kind of simulate instruments that I heard on like an Uzbek, like Uzbekistan, like an Uzbek collection of like instrumental music. Or I'm like, oh man, I really like that lute sound, or like I really like that sort of like sort of reed instrument sound, but I wanted to do that with a guitar. Going back to what I was talking before about like I didn't want to just like have a flute sound in the album. I wanted to by taking that approach and applying it to electric guitar, you get somewhere that's kind of in between the two. Which I think is a more fascinating and interesting place to be for me than doing one or the other. Yeah.
That's really cool. That also reminds me of like how you were describing that guitar player. I'm not super familiar.
Mark Spear? Yeah, no, from Krungbin.
Yeah. His little idiosyncrasies about how he plays. It made me think of another guitarist that you really like, Nels Cline.
Yeah, absolutely. He's my guy.
Who I feel like does similar things.
Absolutely.
Has his own little way of going about how he does things. And there's things now when I hear other people play licks that remind me of Nels, because I think like he kind of originated some of that vernacular in the guitar playing world.
Yeah.
I think it's like the hammer off thing that he does that I don't even know. I don't know how he does it, and I know a lot about little guitar things, but like the way that he does it is a mystery to me.
Well, it's funny that you say that. Well, for a couple of different reasons. First of all, when I was talking about like sort of like the in-between instrument, sort of like in-between timbres, it reminded me of this quote from a Nels Cline interview where he was talking about the fact that he uses so many pedals, and he said something to the effect of like, people always like ask me like, aren't you afraid of like the like having this many pedals in your chain degrading your sound? He's like, man, degradation is my sound. I just thought that was so perfect. Because it's true. I think it was like when you can kind of like warp and degrade something to kind of make it something slightly different, that's a new sound. It's not like you don't want to, in in so many facets of life, I think that, you know, hypernormativity is a dangerous thing. And so I think there's also a way in which hypernormativity in the sonic dimension is also, it can impede creative play. So, you know, if you want to like deliberately screw with something, that's not a mistake. Feedback was not a mistake. You have to make the wrong thing right. Anyway, off the soapbox. So with Nels Cline, you know, like that the little sort of like the distinct sort of, you know, pull off thing that he does, like he definitely nicked that from Tom Verlaine.
Okay.
Where it's like, oh yeah, you can hear it all, you know.
I think he has a special way of doing it,
though. But that's actually, that kind of goes back to what I was talking about before, where it's like, yes, it's special because he's not just a Tom Verlaine ripoff. He's combining Tom Verlaine with like McLaughlin and like Robert Fripp and you know, like D. Boon from Minutemen and Jimi Hendrix, and so it becomes his just by virtue of like smashing so many things into the particle accelerator that you've created a new thing. Yeah, like I think that you know, it's don't be afraid to like take things, but like take things liberally, and be driven by the curiosity of like, oh, what happens if I put this thing here? Like, again, going back to any other art form, it's the interaction.
Or cooking.
Yeah, exactly. It's the interaction between parts that creates a new picture, as opposed to you know, formula, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or AI.
Yeah. I think
we don't have to go there.
No, it's fine.
We can add it to the list as a default, though.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like sort of like 1B. So like if one is like sort of, you know, predatory tech CEOs, like 1B is AI. Yeah. Yeah. Especially within a certain like economic paradigm, it really becomes pretty anti-human. Or yeah.
Okay. All right there. I feel like that is more than plenty.
Sure.
And I've learned a lot. And but I am curious, is there anything you want to add? You can take a moment.
No, I know exactly what I want to add.
Okay. Did I forget something?
No, well, I just wanted to like shower you with compliments and make you uncomfortable.
We will cut this part out.
Okay, I will say this. Like, I mean, yes, it is a solo record, right? Like, I played the parts, the songwriting, whatever. And it's definitely, the vision is my own in a certain sense. That this would never, ever, ever have happened without you.
Okay.
No, genuinely. And the way it sounds, the way it was engineered, the way it was recorded, the feeling of me recording it. So like emotionally and like spiritually, the way that we were able to collaborate, where I didn't, you know, because this is my first time doing this. Like I remember the first day I was so nervous, and like from after that onward, it was like, you know, even if I was having my plenty of moments of like self-doubt and self sort of like deprecation, stuff like that, I never felt like I was sort of abandoned to my own like death spirals in that process. You were right there. And I think just like the emotional component of like having a collaborator is a really underrated aspect of the creative process whenever you're working with anyone. So the fact that you were able to kind of like make it so that I felt safe to kind of, especially with vocal recording, like kind of like sing a bum note and then go back and fix it, or, you know, just stuff like that. You really tread the perfect line between like pushing me to like get a good take, but not being overbearing or judgmental, or, you know, sort of like adding to my own sort of quest for perfectionism, or like sort of more self-critical tendencies. So like just in addition to your technical skill, this the fact that you were able to kind of be there for me as a creative partner, it makes, in that sense, it's very much not a solo thing, and it feels like a collaboration between two people who found an immediate sort of shared language.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, thanks.
You're welcome. Yeah. Always trying to be helpful and bring something to the table that's not gonna disrupt the flow.
Yeah, and like for me listening back to the album, like part of the fun for me is remembering and recognizing all of the little blips and bloops that were added to the song to kind of like make the song more than it was in the demo, and like that was all you. Like most of the time you were just sort of like, oh, let's see how you feel about this thing, and then you would add something, and like I feel like 97% of the time I would like it.
And then the rest I'd be like, oh, well that clearly doesn't work.
No. Yeah, I remember there was like a cymbal flourish at the end of the last song, River of Fire. That
was some cheese.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know. I think we should take that out. But yeah, just stuff like that. Yeah, it's an indelible imprint on how the whole thing turned out, and so it's like it's not just me in that.
Cool.
Thing. Yeah.
Right on. Well, thanks for having me and bringing all the fun stuff.
Yeah.
To the studio.
Looking
and
forward to the
cool
next one.
stuff and doing all that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, on that note, thank you, Raymond.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on this.
Yeah. We'll see how it comes together. I hope you all appreciate some aspect of it. Maybe learn something. Either technically from the specific, I don't know, little meter things that we talked about, or just about music history. Like that stuff's a lot of fun to talk about.
Yeah.
Things that inspire us and how that gets heard on our own stuff, and we can translate it into everyday music and enjoyment. Thanks, Raymond.
You should change the title of this series to Little Meter Things.
Okay.
Anyway. Okay.
Cool.
Yep.
Thanks, Raymond.
Thank you.
All right, cool.